It's the 1st of October 2013, and in a few minutes, Ross Ulbricht, the founder of Silk Road, will face the worst nightmare of his life. Everyone's heard of the dark web, a hidden part of the internet where anything goes. Drugs, weapons, fake identities, a lawless world, untouchable by governments. But Ross Ulbricht was never meant to be a criminal. He was smart, ambitious, but far from being a dangerous kid. But Ross's biggest problem was that he hated rules. The way he saw it, the world was broken. Governments controlled too much. Laws dictated people what they could and couldn't do. Ross believed in total freedom. No banks, no borders, no government control. And in 2011, he had an idea that would change the internet forever. What if there was a place where people could buy and sell anything, without governments or banks interfering? No IDs, no regulations, just pure, secured, anonymous trade. He envisioned a marketplace like eBay, but powered by Bitcoin, the one currency governments couldn't touch. It was a radical idea, maybe even impossible. And there was one huge problem. Ross wasn't a programmer, but that didn't stop him. He locked himself in his apartment and taught himself to code. Day and night he sat in front of his screen, his fingers flying over the keyboard. The first version was a disaster, it barely worked. Then came the second version, still broken. He asked for help on anonymous coding forums, pretending the project was something much more innocent. He got mocked, laughed at. People told him it couldn't be done. But Ross didn't want to stop. Weeks turned into months. His apartment became a mess of coffee cups and scattered notes. His entire life was on that screen. And then, one day, it worked. Silk Road was finally online. At first, it was just a ghost site. No buyers, no sellers, just a dark, empty corner of the internet. Then, the first dealer showed up. Then the first buyer. Then 10 more. 100 more. Word spread fast. Soon, Silk Road wasn't just working, it was exploding in popularity. Within months, it was the Amazon of the drug world. Thousands of transactions were happening every single day. And Ross. He was no longer Ross Ulbricht. He became Dread Pirate Roberts, the king of an empire, and the most wanted man the FBI had never heard of. For now. Silk Road was untouchable. For shutting it down, it would have took an entire operations worth millions of dollars that the state would have not paid for. Bitcoin made sure that it was impossible to take down. No names, no paper trails, no way in. The FBI had spent years trying to crack the site, but they kept running into dead ends. Ross kept his information as hidden as possible. Then, by pure luck, they found their first clue on an old forum post. Back in 2011, before Silk Road was a billion-dollar drug empire, Ross had promoted the site under a random username. At first, it seemed harmless, but by mistake, he had used his real email address. At the time, it meant nothing. But 2 years later, when federal agents were searching the internet for clues, that email turned into a goldmine. Now they had a name, but they also needed proof, so they set the trap. The FBI created fake Silk Road accounts, making thousands of test purchases. Each one was tracked, building an airtight case that could go wrong in any minute. Meanwhile, an undercover agent infiltrated Silk Road, posing as a high-level moderator. He spoke to Ross every day, earning his trust, gathering information. Ross had no idea the feds were closing in until October 1st, 2013. San Francisco. Ross Ulbricht steps into the Glen Park branch of the public library, carrying a silver laptop. He looks like any other tech guy, beard, backpack, a little unkempt. Just another coder in the city. But he's being watched. 2 FBI agents sit at a table in the corner. Another one leans against a bookshelf, pretending to read. Across the street, a surveillance van waits quietly, agents inside monitoring every move he makes. Ross doesn't know it, but his empire is seconds away from collapsing. He sits at a small table, opens his laptop, and logs into Silk Road. On his screen, the base of the operation, every order, every vendor, every message between buyers and dealers. If he closes the laptop, it's over. The encryption will lock the FBI out. All the evidence gone in an instant. They can't let that happen. But they need to act fast. One mistake, and Ross will slam the laptop shut before they get to him. So they set up a distraction. A man and a woman, both undercover agents, stand behind him. They start arguing, loud, heated, fake, but real enough to make heads turn. Ross looks up, just for a second, and that's all they need. Another agent rushes in, grabs the laptop, and runs. Ross lunges for it, but it's too late. The screen is still open. The FBI now has access to everything. The chat logs, the transactions, the hidden accounts, everything Ross built, everything he protected. It's all in their hands now. The agents drag him out of his chair as library patrons stare in confusion. Ross struggles, trying to process what just happened. But deep down, he knows. It's over. The dread pirate Roberts is no more. Silk Road, the billion-dollar empire, has just been seized by the FBI. And Ross Ulbricht? He's about to face the sentence of his life. Ross Ulbricht wasn't walking into a trial. He was walking into history. The media called it the trial of the dark web. Reporters packed the room. Every camera pointed at Ross. The mastermind, the kingpin, the charges against him, drug trafficking, conspiracy, money laundering, and computer hacking. And the worst one being murder for hire. The prosecution claimed Ross ordered 6 assassinations to protect Silk Road. They had incriminating messages between him and a hitman. But there was one problem. None of the murders ever happened. There were no bodies, no proof, just messages. Was it real? Was it a setup? For them, it didn't matter. The damage was already done. The FBI had his laptop. On it, they found everything. Bitcoin transactions worth millions, secret admin messages, detailed records of Silk Road's biggest deals. The case was airtight, but Ross had one shot, and he took it. Ross's lawyers instantly fought back, arguing that he sold the Silk Road back in 2011.
In Ross Ulbricht's trial, his defense argued that he had sold Silk Road to someone else in 2011 and had abandoned his role as its administrator. Specifically, Richard Bates, a friend of Ulbricht who assisted with computer programming, testified that Ulbricht told him in November 2011 that he had sold Silk Road, a claim that Bates initially believed to be true.
The plan was genius, but the jury didn't buy it. After 3 weeks of testimony, they only needed 3 hours to decide. Guilty. On all counts. Ross sat still, barely blinking. Around him, his family sobbed. His mother, his sister, they held hands, whispering prayers over and over again. Then came the sentence. 2 life terms, plus 40 years. No parole, no second chances. The judge looked him in the eye and said, "You are to serve this sentence for the rest of your life." Ross didn't say a word, but everyone knew what he was thinking. This wasn't a sentence, it was an execution. Ross Ulbricht is gone, not dead, but close. His world is now a 9 by 6 foot concrete box, a tiny cot, a metal toilet, a slit for a window, the Supermax prison, the place where America's worst criminals disappear. He spends 23 hours a day in lockdown. The guards watch his every move. The walls are cold, the air stale. He hasn't touched a keyboard in years. But Ross isn't the only one fighting. His mother refuses to give up. She launches a campaign, freeross.org. She gathers supporters, gets signatures. Celebrities, crypto billionaires, and even politicians start backing his cause. They argue that his sentence was insane. Ross wasn't a murderer. He didn't personally sell drugs. He built a website. Yes, it was illegal and dangerous. But 2 life sentences? The fight to free Ross gained traction, and then, in 2025, the movement gets closer than ever. It's his last shot. Donald Trump's first days in office. A list of potential pardons is passed around the White House. High-profile criminals, big names, and buried in that list, Ross Ulbricht. His supporters push hard. Billionaires lobby for him. Meetings are held, calls are made. Rumors spread. Trump was actively considering it. Ross's family waits by the phone. The prison guards start whispering. His lawyers are on edge. If Trump signs that paper, Ross walks free. Days pass, then hours, then the final night. The pardon list is released. As soon as it was released, a tweet appears on Trump's page stating, "I just called the mother of Ross William Ulbricht to let her know that it was a pleasure to have signed full and unconditional pardon of his son, Ross." Ross will remain the lost king of the online underworld until someone comes for his throne.